Has this ever happened to you? You meet a girl and are quite into her, so you ask her out. Unfortunately, she doesn't return your interest. But you aren't ready to give up, so you do what anybody would do in your situation. You start chasing after her. You run faster and start catching up, ignoring the scared and confused expression on her face. Soon you're right behind her. With a fresh surge of adrenaline, you reach out your hand towards the girl, and just as you're about to grab her, she turns into a tree. Now don't lie to me. I bet this has happened to you at some point. But you needn't be embarrassed. I have a simple remedy for you. See, we humans have been taking comfort in gods and divinity since the dawn of time. Why not simply apply this to love? Here's where the Greek god of light comes into play, Apollo. In truth, Apollo is the god of much more than just lights. I could also name archery, music, dance, poetry, the sun, prophecy, beauty, and more. Now, you'd think that Apollo, being a beautiful god and all, would have no trouble with the ladies. But the truth is, even he had to face rejection sometimes. One of his best known misadventures was a story I alluded to earlier, his pursuit of the nymph Daphne. It was a pursuit of legs just as it was one of hearts, as Apollo chased her down upon being spurned. It wasn't exactly a fair contest, and a desperate Daphne turned herself into a laurel to avoid him. This story explains Apollo's association with laurels. Now, I'm not going to criticize the gods too harshly. I still get high with Dionysus every so often, and would like to remain on their good side. But you could say one of Apollo's chief traits being born out of his unyielding pursuit of an unwilling woman, to the point where she had to leave the animal kingdom entirely to get away from him, is somewhat problematic. And to be honest, this method of winning your interest affections can easily lead to some problems. And that's why pharmacies don't just sell the cure for the common cold. It's all a big cover up. Hey, what's with all the trees? Huh? What trees? I mean the trees in your yard. I could have sworn there weren't so many last time I was here. What do you mean more trees? I think someone needs to lay off the beer. And aren't those laurels? How come you got so many laurels all of a sudden? I really don't appreciate this incessant questioning of yours, Barry. Last time I checked, trees don't grow like that in the span of 3 months. You're talking crazy. Crazy, I tell you. Hey, Andrew, how come there's a tree growing out of your bedroom window? I'm just gonna call turning your crush into a tree Plan B for now and move on to Apollo's next antics. They involve Cassandra, a princess of Troy. Apollo wanted to hook up with Cassandra, but the clever girl she was, she asked him for a gift first. Now, usually a necklace might suffice in this scenario, but Cassandra was already a princess and had all the necklaces she could ever wish for. We are talking about divine levels of gold digging here. She asked Apollo for the gift of prophecy, and he granted her wish. But after gaining her new powers, Cassandra was like, "Sight!" and went back on her word. This enraged Apollo. He couldn't simply take back the power of prophecy from her because of some divine rule of conduct. So, instead, he cursed Cassandra so that no one would ever believe her prophecies. You may be familiar with the myth of the Trojan horse. Hey, how come you're letting that horse in? I don't know, because it looks cool. And you don't find it at all suspicious that a huge wooden horse just happens to show up outside our gates in the middle of a war? Haven't you heard of the Trojan horse? Huh? It's obviously Achaeans, you doofus! Hey, what do you have against horses, you stupid bitch? Just so you know, you'll die a slow and painful death tonight by being stabbed in the gut. Also, one of your direct descendants will be responsible for the invention of dubstep. I don't believe you. No retelling of Apollo's love life would be complete without mentioning Coronis. Apollo impregnated her with his child, but Coronis had eyes for another man and started an affair with him. A crow ratted them out to Apollo. Apollo refused to believe it, and he got all pissed, so he turned the crow black. A fate worse than death, I know. Crows have been black ever since. Apollo must have been busy that day or something, cause his sister Artemis did his dirty work for him and killed Coronis with an arrow. The child was rescued, however, and grew to become Asclepius, god of medicine. So, just that it's clear, the god of all things medicine sprung out of a situation involving infidelity, murder, and crows. I think I'm starting to understand why we don't have a cure for the common cold yet. Like the ancient Greek he was, Apollo was also into dudes, his favorite male lover being Hyacinthus, after whom the hyacinth flower is named. But if you're hoping that Apollo had a lasting and loving relationship for once, Hyacinthus died in a game of discus throw. If you aren't inspired by these tales of Apollo's romantic affairs, perhaps you could look to some other god. You might take a leaf out of Zeus's book. He had a penchant for turning women into animals, that's always a fun trick. And my maternal grandparents were Polish, and my paternal grandparents were Danish. I think you would make a wonderful zebra. What? Oh, nothing, nothing. Do carry on, dear. I should mention that Zeus is married to the goddess Hera, who happens to be his sister. Though the less mention about that part, the better. To be honest, no matter the mythology, gods have a tendency to act like and have the same problems as us humans. I wonder why that is. So, maybe following their lead when it comes to love is a double-edged sword. For all the tales of sweet, everlasting love, there are 5 involving brutal mutilations or other horrific fates. Relationships are hard, but I think that deep down, we all know that the best advice one could possibly give on love is simply visiting 4chan. Thanks for watching, gotta go! Huh, 4chan, what's this? Never again.